Everyone loves a good NPC in their Dungeons & Dragons campaign. But you know what I don't love? Running that NPC in combat. If you've ever run a game of D&D before, you know that it's a skill that requires you to spin a million plates all at once, and that can be a challenge for even a seasoned DM. During combat, you're running anywhere between 1 and 20 monsters, sometimes more, and during that time, you may be trying to remember lair actions, legendary actions, resistances, vulnerabilities for each of those monsters individually. On top of that, you're managing the environment of your battle map, you're adjudicating on everything your players do, you're keeping track of everything's health, and any number of other things. The mental load is fucking exhausting, and at a certain point, the last thing you want to do is throw an allied NPC into the mix. But let's face it, we're dungeon masters, we don't always get what we want, and frankly, the puzzle of how do I juggle all of these plates is part of the fun of DMing in the first place. So here's the scenario. In your infinite wisdom, you've just ended a session on a cliffhanger right before a combat encounter, and shortly after your players adopted the random NPC that they just met. It's not their fault. After all, you're the one who decided it was a good idea to introduce the frenetic kobold who sells magic items that he has blatantly stolen from the shop down the street out of a too long trench coat. In retrospect, how was your party supposed to resist? But now your party is about to head into combat with Waldo the Kobold over here, and against your better judgment, you'd prefer to give this poor bastard a fighting chance instead of just letting him get vaporized. You could just use the Kobold stat block, but Waldo isn't just any kobold. He's special, if only because the party perceives him as such. And as the DM, it's your job to preserve whatever level of immersion your players find the most fun. Which means you're going to have to build a stat block for Waldo between now and next session. And you're going to have to do it in a way that doesn't make it any more difficult than it already is to run a combat encounter. Here's what I do in these theoretical and definitely not based on my own personal experiences situations. First of all, we're going to give Waldo the Kobold a class, just to help give us a base to work off of. He's a pretty innovative, scrappy little dude with klepto vibes, so let's make him a rogue. We're gonna give him a level too, because that's gonna help us determine what kind of stuff he can do later down the line when your party inevitably decides to bring him along for their adventures in perpetuity. But we're still spinning a million plates, so we don't want to think about his level too hard or to bother with experience points. And we don't want Waldo to outshine the heroes of our story, we just want him to be the Robin to our players' Batman. So Waldo's level is always going to be half the party's level, rounded down, at a minimum of 1. Second, we need to determine Waldo's ability scores. Put down the 46, and forget about point buy. This is Waldo the Kobold we're talking about, not a DMPC. So we're going to pick 2 things that this guy is good at, and give each of those abilities a 16. Everything else is going to be a flat 10. Done. We're going to pick an armor class for Waldo based on vibes alone. He's either a light armor, medium armor, or heavy armor kind of guy, and each type of armor is going to represent one of 3 static armor classes. Don't worry about trying to do the math here, this is 5th edition, not 3.5, and certainly not Miss Terwilliger's 4th grade math class, so you don't have to show your work. Next, hit points. At half your party's level, Waldo isn't the hardiest, but we also don't want him to be instantly flattened with a hammer like some other famous kobold I know.
28 points of bludgeoning damage.
I
You watch a spurt turns after throwing this, and then a giant hammer just boom, just Gallagher's spurt across the stone floor of this.
We want to minimize our work as he levels up, so we're just going to give him max hit points on his class's hit die and add his constitution modifier. His speed, easy. Whatever is normal for his race, we don't need to get fancy here. Same goes for his senses, languages, resistances, and immunities. Let's go ahead and leave out any vulnerabilities though, just so that he lasts a little bit longer in combat. As far as his proficiency bonus goes, I've found that a flat +3 that never changes is a pretty solid way to go. That way he's not useless to the party as they level, but he also doesn't reach a heroic level of proficiency. Saving throws are just whatever are typical for his class, but his class is more of a guideline than an actual rule, so we can change this up for other NPCs if we feel like the vibes call for it. As for his skills, we're just going to pick any 4 that feel right. Doesn't matter if they're typical for his class or not, just choose whatever you think he'd be good at. If he's got any other passive features or traits from his race or class that you want to add on, now is the time to do it. And lastly for this section, we're going to give him one thing that scales as he levels, and we're going to make it worded as simply as possible so that you don't have to think about it too hard while you're running him in combat. If he's a mage, we're going to give him magical potency, which is going to increase his spell save DC over time, and if he's a martial character, we're going to give him martial prowess, which is going to increase his attack bonus over time. Both of these will also increase the damage that his primary attack deals when he reaches certain levels. Okay, so that was the easy part that you can throw together without using too much brain power. The rest is going to require a little bit of thought on your part to accomplish. We're going to give him a grand total of 5 things to do in combat. The first 2 are core actions, which Waldo can do on any given turn, regardless of his level. One of them is going to deal damage, and the other is going to buff his allies. For the latter, I really enjoy repurposing spells and abilities that normally only buff the caster, and just switch the target to someone else instead. And for the former, I recommend reflavoring existing actions to better suit your NPC's aesthetic. For example, a bard NPC in one of my campaigns uses Discordant Melody as a reflavored Vicious Mockery. The 3 remaining actions can be any combination of actions, bonus actions, and reactions at your discretion. Unlike the first 2, these can only be used 1 to 3 times a day, and they can only be accessed when our NPC reaches 3rd, 5th, or 7th level. I personally recommend creating abilities that directly relate to your NPC's class, their background, and their general aesthetic. Wherever possible, I try to structure these abilities to focus primarily upon aiding the player characters. It makes the NPC even more invaluable, and further endears them to the party, and ensures that they remain invested in the character, their personality, and any quests or lore that they might later impart. And there you have it, a companion NPC that took all of half an hour to build, and which won't require a ton of effort on your part to run in combat. Heck, it's simple enough that if push comes to shove, you can pretty easily pass off responsibility for running this character onto one of your players. I've been using this method to generate and run NPCs for my home games for a couple of years now. It's taken a lot of tweaking to get to this point, but I'm finally happy with my methods, and I hope this advice can help make the lives of my fellow DMs just a little bit easier. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This is the obligatory like and subscribe part. Tell me what you think in the comments. Is this a method you're going to try out for yourself in the future? What tricks do you have that make running NPCs easier? Also, check out my website. I make affordable alternatives to 3D printed and resin cast minis. They start at $1 each, and I also offer my services as a DM. There's a link here, and you can also find a link in the doobly-doo below. Until next time, bye, I guess. Bye. I still don't know how to end these videos. Okay, bye. That's it. Goodbye.